In our last video, we looked at the story of Teb Tengri, a shaman who challenged Chinggis Khan for supreme power over the Mongol Empire. In this follow-up, we're discussing Teb Tengri's life, depiction in the sources, and how it relates to what we know of shamans in the Mongol Empire, as well as the religious views of Chinggis Khan. Teb Tengri's life is mainly recorded in three sources: the Secret History of the Mongols, the Tarikh-i Jahangusha of Juvayni, and the Jami al-Tawarikh of Rashid al-Din, all written decades after his death. A few other sporadic mentions of him survive, brief references in the Yuan Sher, and a letter written in 1262 by Hulagu, a grandson of Chinggis Khan, sent to the King of France Louis IX, wherein Teb Tengri is noted as having spread the word of heaven to Chinggis Khan that he was destined to rule the world. Teb Tengri was not forgotten after his death, but we are given a hint that there were two conflicting views of him. It seems that there was a public view among the Mongols in general which saw him in a more positive role, a generally powerful and magical individual. Thus we have sources like Juvayni and Rashid al-Din indicating that common Mongols believed in his power, but then these writers dismiss these beliefs as fabrications. It is likely in this view of his power that Hulagu's letter was written, perhaps believing Teb Tengri's name to be one known around the world. The other posthumous view appears to be that held by the Mongol imperial government, that Teb Tengri was a power-hungry schemer and perhaps even a fraud. While this is noted by Juvayni and Rashid al-Din, in the Secret History of the Mongols this is much more explicit. If we follow the argument of historians like Christopher Atwood that the Secret History of the Mongols was compiled in the year 1252 on the order of Menka Khan, a man who may have been given his name by Teb Tengri, then we can see two trends apparent in Teb Tengri's posthumous depiction that may reflect conditions under Menka. Firstly, Teb Tengri's shamanic role is greatly downplayed in the Secret History of the Mongols. He's never called a shaman, that is, he is never addressed as Böge or Kam, the Turkic form of the word, and it is only briefly alluded to in the Secret History narrative that he speaks with spirits. His role in granting the title of Chinggis Khan to Temujin is completely removed from the Secret History narrative. Instead, in this narrative, Temujin is granted the title 20 years before the establishment of the Mongol Empire, before Teb Tengri's family even joins him. This is likely a deliberate snub on the part of the compilers to minimize Teb Tengri's influence on Chinggis Khan. Despite the respect and repeated mentions given to Mönlik, Teb Tengri's father and Temujin's stepfather, Teb Tengri himself is reduced to only a single episode in this account. Now, the Secret History of the Mongols has a rather negative view of shamans in general, or any diviners of any kind. Examples include Khorchi, who has a vision of Chinggis's future greatness and then promptly asks for 30 women. When Khorchi is finally given permission to take these 30 women, it results in an uprising amongst the Khoritumed and the death of Borogul, a close friend and ally of Chinggis Khan. The only time shamans are even named in the Secret History narrative, as Böge, is during the death of Tolui, Mönka's father, where it is strongly implied to be a case of murder, orchestrated or at least encouraged by Ögedei in cooperation with the shamans. Now let's assume the tradition reported by Juvayni is authentic, and that in 1206 it was indeed Teb Tengri who granted both the title of Chinggis Khan and the heavenly mandate to Temujin at the Great Hurultai. This kind of thing probably did not sit too well with the Khans and imperial family once Teb Tengri tried to take power for himself. It perhaps seemed to threaten a precedent that the shaman in a way appointed the Great Khan, paralleling the relationship between the Pope and the Holy Roman Emperor. There, the popes claimed the right to officially anoint the emperor, but could also withhold this, initiating centuries of poor relationship between them. By killing Teb Tengri and relying on more pliant shamans, Chinggis ensured he could get the readings he wanted without a threat to his position. It was also a useful power move in its own right to demonstrate that Chinggis was stronger than even the mightiest shaman. We can use some comparisons with this episode to make an inference regarding the religious views of Chinggis Khan himself. Let's compare with Tiu Chuji, or Master Chang Chung, the a Taoist master who journeyed from northern China to meet Chinggis in what is now northern Afghanistan. Despite the opinion of some of Chinggis' advisors, most notably Ilu Chutsai, who thought Chang Chungzi nothing but a fraudster, Chinggis Khan, at least outwardly, was very respectful towards the Taoist. Chinggis had hoped Chang Chung would bring with him the secrets to eternal life. He did not. But even after this disappointment, Chinggis still treated the master with great honor. While we can see this from a purely pragmatic perspective, that Chinggis wanted to retain the support of Chang Chung's many followers in China, it's just as likely that Chinggis Khan still saw Chang Chung as possessing a certain holy charisma about him and the ability to intercede with heaven on the Khan's behalf. The fact that Chang Chungzi traveled all the way from China to simply tell the Khan no also must have impressed Chinggis, as that required a bit of courage on his part. We can see from some of Chinggis' other interactions with religious figures that he cared little for their institutional roles or specific creeds, but instead, if they could demonstrate that they possessed the same divinely inspired charisma, or at least courage, to indicate some sort of divine backing. When first meeting the Buddhist monk Haiyun in 1219, Chinggis showed no awareness of what constituted being a Buddhist monk and immediately asked Haiyun to grow his hair out and wear it in Mongolian style. Haiyun told the Khan that he could not, due to his vows as a monk. Chinggis, perhaps impressed by the man's defiance, allowed Haiyun to keep his head shaved. In another example we dealt with in a previous video, a Qadi who was brought by Tolui to Chinggis' court. This was not because of the man's skill as a Qadi, but because the Qadi survived the fall off of the walls of Herat, an act which showed heaven's protection. Chinggis spent some time interviewing the Qadi and learning from him, until the Qadi got a bit too critical of Chinggis' actions, in which case the Khan then dismissed him. Finally, we have Ilu Chutsai himself, perhaps the most famous of the advisors of the early great Khans. Despite his training in Buddhism and experience in governance, he rose to prominence with Chinggis because he demonstrated both courage in standing up to Chinggis and his filial loyalty in refusing to vocally condemn the Jin dynasty, whom his ancestors had loyally served, even though the Jurchen had overthrown the Khitan-ruled Lao dynasty. Chutsai himself was a descendant of the Lao dynasty's royal family. After that, Chutsai's place in Chinggis' court was not acting as an advisor on Buddhist or government matters, but as an astrologer who predicted celestial events and interpreted natural observations. The most famous of these was an episode alluded to in Persian accounts, but more explicitly described in Chutsai's own biography. That is, while on the borders of India, Mongol scouts spotted a rhinoceros, a new and terrifying creature to the Mongols. Chutsai identified this as a holy creature which discouraged further advances against India. This episode also speaks to Chinggis' lack of knowledge of Buddhism, as Chutsai did not place the rhinoceros into a Buddhist context, but identified it as a creature from Chinese mythology sent by heaven. What we see in these figures is not institutional backing granting them favor in Chinggis' eyes, but certain levels of charisma, courage, or individual ability to interact or interpret, with heaven being indicated. In the process, Chinggis generally surrounded himself with men who showed both wisdom and something of an ability to stand up to him, within an appropriate limit, of course, and a connection to heaven and ability to intercede with it on his behalf. Self-affirming systems that both demonstrated heavenly support for Chinggis' rule to outsiders, but also confirmed it for Chinggis himself, his associates, and his subjects. Those who rose to great power under Chinggis and his successors did so by taking on some of the roles associated with shamans, as physicians, astrologers, and even alchemists. Chutsai, for example, appears most regularly as a court physician and astrologer for Chinggis, and it is only after Chinggis Khan's death, during the reign of Ögedei, that Chutsai took on his more famous administrative role and began to actually have an effect on Mongol governing policies. To bring this back to Teb Tengri, the death of Teb Tengri did not end Chinggis' connection with holy figures, but rather he continued to seek them out to secure heavenly support for the Mongol Empire. The Great Khan, though, took on the role of the single primary intermediary with Tengri on behalf of the Great Mongol state, and we see a number of ceremonies recorded where the Khans undertook such roles. The most well-known was that before major campaigns or battles, Chinggis and his successors climbed on the high points such as Mount Burhan Khaldun to pray to Tengri for victory. And then, coming down to tell the rest of their troops that Tengri had confirmed their upcoming success. In this way, troops went into battle with much greater confidence, believing the outcome was already predetermined. Being Khan was a combination of both holy and temporal roles, which allowed them to move against religious figures when necessary, as in the case of Chinggis Khan versus Teb Tengri.